Welcome to the Bombay Bar Podcast, a show where we share the rich history of the Bombay Bar Association through our wonderful members, past and present. Today, we have retired Justice Ramesh D. Dhanuka, who started his career over 35 years ago. From humble beginnings, selling magazines and doormats, to fund his education in commerce and law, and eventually becoming a lawyer and the 46th Chief Justice of the Bombay High Court. For any junior lawyer practicing at the bar for the first time, they say, having Justice Dhanuka presiding over your case was a teaching experience you would be lucky to have. When you were born, DR Dhanuka, who later became judge of the Bombay High Court, was already a lawyer. And you had a law practice atmosphere in your house. So did you always want to become a lawyer, or did you have any other ambition?
No, I had no other ambition. I also wanted to become a lawyer. My father and my uncle both were practicing law. So all the time they were discussing law, I also thought, let me also join them.
Dhanuka, DR Dhanuka was my senior also, as you know, and he has produced about 36 juniors from his chambers before he became judge in 1990. So was there pressure to join a senior who was also your father and a very successful senior lawyer?
There was no pressure as such. He had large practice and I could see how he was sharing his law and experience with all the juniors. So I thought I will be more comfortable with him. But my experience is that he will never treat you as a son when he is practicing with you, he is guiding you. Like any other junior, I used to be treated. I used to follow all his advice and started my career.
While doing your commerce graduation, you started attending the office of the sales tax practitioner, Mahavirji Devda, who was, of course, had office in Bhupen Chambers. So how was that experience in his office?
That experience was wonderful, I must say. He was very blunt. He will not talk anything loose. And wherever he would find that there is some injustice to his client, he would write letter immediately to not less than Prime Minister, Chief Minister, Finance Minister, and whatnot. So I have learned this principle from him, that don't surrender. If you are right, you are right. You have to fight.
I remember you have mentioned once that that experience gave you more advantage to write answers to question papers because you knew some cases which other students would not know to write in your answer book and make your answer book more weighty. Was that true?
Of course, I had some advantage of practicing tax with Devraji. So some judgments I used to remember wherever those judgments had a reference in his income tax appeals. So when I used to write my exam papers, those judgments, whatever were relevant, I used to quote in my answer paper.
How was your experience at Government Law College, which is, of course, alumni of most of the lawyers in Mumbai?
Experience was wonderful. I was very sincere student. That time I was staying at Malad. So 6 o'clock train was my fixed train. And 7 o'clock lecture I used to attend. After attending all the lectures in morning session, I used to go to Devraji's office.
Any special memory or incident which you recollect from Government Law College?
I had wonderful professors. And my wife was also a student of Government Law College. We were going together, coming together. She was my neighbor. And one incident I want to share with you is that my uncle was very fond of eating South Indian dishes. He used to come to Satkar restaurant every day. And it was monsoon that time. So I was sharing my umbrella with my wife, Anita. That time she was my friend, Anita. And we were from very conservative family. So my uncle saw we sharing same umbrella. And he told me, Acha, you are sharing same umbrella? Okay, no problem. I'll tell, don't worry, I'll tell Bade Bhai Sahab and get this relationship regularized. So I could not understand for some time what is he talking about. when I became lawyer, and then I came on the municipal corporation panel. At that time, I realized that what he meant to say, because he was practicing on corporation side, and perhaps he wanted to see that I get married with his intervention.
I know Kishan Bhai was very fond of doing these cases about municipal corporation, unauthorized structures, etc. He was very popular for preparing his compilation of judgments, and one of his compilation was on the regularization of unauthorized structures in Mumbai, etc. So in that context, he offered to regularize your relationship with Anita, isn't it?
I don't know.
I know he had compilations on lots of subjects.
Yes,
So one of
yes.
them was this regularization.
And
of
very
municipal-
useful, very useful.
Now, when you passed out your law from Government Law College, you obviously joined Justice DR Dhanuka chambers, our chamber, and I was already there in that chamber. So, how was your first day in chambers as a lawyer?
My father told me, first you go with his clerk, go to the various departments, find out how filing is done. You can't start arguments from day one. So you start with your visit to departments, go with clerk. He gave me some brief. You carry this brief in your hand, go to various courts. You listen to the arguments of lawyers, observe it, how judges are asking questions, how they respond. So that way my practice began. And then I was asked to assist one of you in the chamber in some matters.
So, how was your first appearance in High Court, and it was before whom?
My first appearance was just before Justice Bharucha, very senior judge that time. And I remember my father told Shailendra Kamdar, who was also one of his junior, he had come for a conference, that now my son has become advocate, you let him appear in some matter. So he said, yes, yes. Then he spoke to Dr. Virendra Tuljapurkar before Justice Bharucha that Mr. Dhanuka's son will be appearing, so please cooperate with him. And I was asked that you have to apply for an adjournment. So whole night I was writing on a piece of paper how to apply for adjournment by consent of parties and subject to your lordship sanction, matter is being settled, please give me 1 week's adjournment. That way I wrote the entire thing on a piece of paper all night, and as soon as matter was called out, I asked for adjournment and Justice Bharucha said, all right. And I came out with the happiness that I could take adjournment before
First
Justice
successful
Bharucha.
mission.
First successful mission, yes.
I have a story about a lawyer, my friend, who later became a judge. And there used to be these expert stenographers whose services were deployed by either High Court judges, and they would do part-time job, or for senior lawyers. So for a junior to be given a brief to give a dictation to the senior stenographers was a kind of fearful experience. So what he did was he wrote down the whole petition by hand, hid it in the file, and from that he dictated to the stenographer next day. So did you have any such experience of working with a very, very experienced and senior stenographer?
Yes, I used to do that. When Mr. Vijay Khona was taking dictation of my father, he was quite senior. And during those days, I could not afford to give dictation. And I had hardly any experience of giving dictation. So I was always having that hesitation that if I make some mistake, steno will laugh at you. So at the first instance, you write the whole thing on a piece of paper and then read before the steno. Then steno will also look at you, but he will smile. He will not make any comment that why are you not giving dictation, why are you reading it. But then gradually you got experience in small matters. When you start giving dictation, nothing wrong. You can pick up the subject fast.
So your first case you mentioned was the adjournment before Justice Bharucha. Which is the first case you remember which you argued?
I argued, I can't say it is first matter, but which gave me a lot of boost was before Justice Daud. Because my father was briefed in the matter. It was a small matter, some known client. And when his appointment came, he told me that you will have to appear. So I said, how can I appear? I don't have much practice. And Mr. Karsanji Baba, who was a very leading counsel, very senior advocate, was my opponent. So I said, nothing to be worried. You sit in my library, find out some judgments, and argue. When after Mr. Baba completed his argument, I requested Justice Daud that please allow me to argue on facts today, and on law, please hear me tomorrow. So I was too much worried, first of all, before Justice Daud, and secondly, against Mr. Baba. But somehow I completed my arguments. I cited those judgments also, with assistance of both, I must say, Justice Daud also, and Mr. Baba. And the judgment was reserved, and after a few days when the judgment was pronounced, I was at the peak, I must say. When I succeeded against Mr. Baba, then I realized that we have very competent and impartial judges, that even if a junior appears, they will give you justice, irrespective of who is your senior.
That's true. DR Dhanuka became judge in July 90. I was also with him by the time he became judge, and I was 6-year-old. You were 2 years younger to me in the chambers. So I had a feeling of little having void in career because your senior has suddenly become a judge. So what was your experience when he became a judge that suddenly you have no senior left?
I must share with you, when he was sounded by then Chief Justice
Chittatosh
Mukherjee, because there was a crisis in our High Court, and Justice Chittatosh Mukherjee was able to persuade him to become a judge. So when he was sounded, he was not agreeable to accept that immediately. He said, I have a big family, how can I become judge? And that time salary was also, I think, hardly 8,000 rupees per month. So he asked me that you have completed hardly 4 to 5 years. What will happen to you if I become judge? I said, you don't worry about me. There is a call for the nation's duty. You please accept it. I will manage my practice. So he was very happy. Then I joined S.R. Shah Sahib. He had also just retired from City Civil Court. I joined him. S.R. Shah Sahib, of course, used to teach me how to conduct a trial. And he was Gita follower. He used to tell me, don't lose your temper. Once I lost in a big matter without any opportunity of hearing. So I told Sasa also, and also my father, that I prepared whole night, and before I could open my brief, matter was dismissed in half a minute. So what type of justice is this? So both of them told me that don't carry that impression. Your perception may be different. Judge's perception is different. You are lost. If you behave like this, you will not be able to concentrate on your practice. Forget about it. Prepare for the new matter. If you are not satisfied, go in appeal. Don't criticize any judge. So I continued to follow that practice. And I used to tell my colleague judges on the bench with me that we should not criticize our seniors, and advocates should not criticize the judges.
That's true. Except you can criticize the judgment, not the judge.
That's right.
There is always a perception in legal profession that if you have somebody in legal profession, you either get it on platter or you have upstart, you have advantage. Like I am a first generation lawyer, you are the second generation lawyer. So did you have advantage as a second generation lawyer, or was there a distinct disadvantage?
I don't think I had any advantage of second generation lawyer, because my father was very straightforward. He would never recommend any solicitor to give me second brief. He told me very clearly that if you get work, that will be on your own merits, but I will guide you.
How did you start getting the arbitration work, which you later on became your specialization?
I don't know whether you remember that or not, but I remember. I was also on the Municipal Corporation panel, and there was one arbitration matter going on before Justice D.M. Rege. The name of the contractor was Pre-Stress Product versus BMC. So before pleadings could be filed, you became busy somewhere else, and you had to return that brief. You recommended my name to Mr. Tendolkar, then Deputy Law Officer, that you can, if you want, now Ramesh is on panel, you can brief him. And that way I got the first brief of arbitration before Justice DM Reddy. And then I started getting a lot of work in arbitration. I did well in that matter. Municipal Corporation got a lot of confidence in me and they started briefing me.
Doing work for municipal corporation had, as you mentioned, one advantage that you could do things on your own without being under anybody's supervision. And then also other advantage was that you got to do the work in the High Court also, the arbitration petitions also. So do you have anything to share about the arbitration petitions filed for and on behalf of corporation or against corporation?
The image of the corporation before High Court was such that you have to start with plinth level. You have to make up your case very...
Build your structure.
To build up the structure. But if your preparation is good, your argument is good, judges were listening to you, they would justice. There was no prejudice against the municipal corporation. So you have to try your best when you are appearing for the public sector or public body as against the private client. Because you have to satisfy yourself. In case of a private client, of course, private client will expect that you win their case. But municipal corporation, you have to see that justice is done.
In 2012, you became a judge. So just take us in history and tell us how you were sounded and how was that first feeling when one of the senior judges asked you about the judgeship in the High Court.
I was sounded in 2011, and I must say that Justice Chandrachud and Justice Devda, they were able to convince the Honorable Chief Justice to make me judge. Then I was invited by Justice Shah, then Chief Justice, to his chamber. And he suggested that now you give up your practice, join us. There is a national call for you. I said, all right, I will accept it.
So did you take time to think or you spontaneously and instantaneously answered?
No, I did not take much time because I had never thought of becoming a judge, but I had seen my father doing judgeship and imparting justice to a large number of people. So once I was offered, I said yes.
As a judge, you had an opportunity to sit with two senior judges who later became Chief Justices of India, Justice Bobde and Justice Chandrachud. So how was that experience with future Chief Justices?
So that was wonderful. I got opportunity from day one, from Justice Bobde first, and thereafter with Justice Chandrachud, of course. So one day, one very heavy matter was going on before us, where Mr. Nariman was arguing a matter. And I used to read all the matters. I was preparing my notes. I had some query to be asked. So how do I ask that query? So I first wrote down that query on a piece of paper. And then I asked Justice Chandrachud that Mr. Nariman is arguing like this. How is that possible? He told me that you asked this question. I said, how can I ask question? Nariman is arguing before us and I am too junior. So before I could do something, he told Mr. Nariman that my brother wants to ask you a question. And Mr. Nariman said, of course, I am bound to answer. I will try to satisfy. I am happy that the learned judges asked me a question. And then he responded to my question and I was very happy that I could ask question to Mr. Nariman. And then I started getting opportunity from Justice Chandrachud. He was giving me opportunity to write judgments. And he was very polite and humble with me. I don't know why. He would correct my judgments and he would very politely ask me, Ramesh, can I make corrections if you don't mind in your judgment? So I said, of course, please correct it. And he would make few corrections. I used to compile those corrected orders for my benefit, and I used to follow that while preparing for the next judgment.
As a judge, which is one of the most difficult cases you would recall, which you had to decide?
Difficult matter. Recently, I passed an order, last October, I must say, when there were two political parties, and the matter was relating to permission for conducting Dussehra rally at Shivaji Park. And top lawyers were appearing before me, including you. So that was a big matter, and our courtroom was jam-packed by media persons. And so many politicians, so many junior advocates, so many senior advocates. They wanted to know what is going to happen in this. So I heard and discussed with my junior colleague, and we immediately passed the order that permission should be granted to A party instead of B party. That was a difficult matter. Otherwise, if judgment is reserved, then you can think over it, you can prepare, and then you can decide.
Yeah, perhaps in that case there was no time.
There was no time. So then and there, what we felt proper.
What did you do as a judge to remedy the maybe injustice or some wrongs which you thought were done with you as a lawyer?
I can share with you one incident where I was assisting my father in one matter, very heavy matter, and that was my initial first brief, you can say, in a big matter. I had prepared my notes all night, and before I could open my brief, matter was dismissed. So that it was a big impact on my mind that what is this going on? Even 2 minutes or 5 minutes reasonable hearing ought to have been given. So when I became judge, first thing was in my mind was that I should not pass any order without giving reasonable hearing to the lawyers. Sometimes parties in person appear before you. Give hearing and then decide. Ultimately, orders have to be passed by the court. So nobody should be dissatisfied with this, that I was not heard.
As a judge, when juniors argue before you, seniors argue before you, so you have seen some disadvantages to juniors when they appear against senior. So did you do consciously to address that issue?
Yes, I used to do that. There should not be injustice merely because a litigant can't afford to engage a senior advocate and a junior is briefed. So sometimes, even if you have to go out of way without doing, of course, injustice to any party, you have to protect juniors and see to it that justice is done. Whomsoever appears, whether senior or junior, if there is imbalance between senior and junior, then of course you have to protect junior. And you have to encourage, you have to support junior, and you have to find out something in favor of junior.
There is always a disadvantage for a second generation lawyer or, for that matter, a second generation judge. The fear is that you are always and constantly compared with your father or your grandfather, etc. Did that bother you, trouble you?
No, it did not bother me. On the contrary, I can share with you one experience. I was hearing a second appeal assignment in 2013. I had become judge in 2012 January. And one second appeal was filed in 1993. And that was disposed of that was admitted by my father.
Oh.
And after 20 years, I heard that appeal and I dismissed it. So the lawyer, Mr. V.S. Gokhale, had appeared in that matter for the appellant. After order was passed, he looked at me and, "Sir, I want to tell you something." I said, "What do you want to tell me now? Judgment is already delivered." He said, "Just see who had admitted this appeal." The senior Justice Dhanuka was very kind and liberal to juniors, and he had admitted my appeal and you dismissed my appeal. I told him very politely that you are not a junior advocate now. Secondly, he was convinced. I am not convinced. I have dismissed it. So I shared this episode with my father. He was very, very happy. He encouraged me. He told me that you have done it without influencing the fact that I had admitted and you could not have dismissed it. I dismissed it.
You know that you are known for your sense of humor and your quota of jokes which you circulate, share, etc. I can tell you a story that once in the library, my cousins had come and we had gone to see a play, and they said that their husbands had advised them to see the play with me, and the name of the play was "Is Sathe ka kya kare?" And you spontaneously reacted saying that ये तो हमारी कई सालों की समस्या है. So did that sense of humor help you ease the climate in court when it is tense?
Yes, of course, of course. You have to be cheerful. You see, I must share with you that you can't act as a judge with a lot of pressure. How to ease that pressure? For that, you have to keep your court alive and share with junior judge sitting with you, or you share with advocates, keep them comfortable. And as a result of that, you make yourself comfortable and you can impart with justice very carefully and in an efficient manner.
These days, there is a lot of debate going on in the process of appointment of judges, because when a lawyer is asked, it takes a lot of time till that proposal materializes before that person is appointed as a judge. So, what advice you would give to these young lawyers who are in the zone of consideration for judgeship?
It is taking a lot of time. I am also personally perturbed with this. When I was appointed, even at that point of time, it took almost 8 to 10 months.
It takes much longer these days.
It takes longer, and it is not certain whether it will be true or not. So you have to have patience. When will it come? Whether it will come, may not come. At what stage it will be fizzled out? There are too many questions.
I used to call Dhanuka Chambers as Gurukul, and all of us used to call him as Masterji because of his academic bent of mind and teachers' qualities, etc. So you had imbibed those qualities. So how do you want to carry them forward?
I was not delivering lectures like him. He had that passion to teach. Even as a student in Government Law College, I am told that he used to discuss so many issues with his colleagues, with his friends. And then after he became a fellow professor in Government Law College, he started teaching. I never joined any college to teach. But so many lectures I have delivered. And by that mode, I am trying to do my best. Of course, as a judge, senior judge, what training I got from my seniors, to my colleagues who are sitting as a second judge with me, I also try to train them. I give them opportunity. I used to give them opportunity to dictate judgments in open court and discuss with me, write good judgments. And lots of them are appreciating that efforts.
So, former Chief Justice of Bombay High Court, thank you very much
Thank you
for discussing and sharing your experiences of law and life with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you are right, you are right. You have to fight. As Justice Dhanuka rightly says, there is a degree of freedom one gets when you remove your fear. You just watch an episode of Bombay Bar Association podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more such videos. We also have an audio podcast which dives a bit deeper and is available on all podcast apps.